Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here with my review for Season 3 of Jessica Jones. Of course, as the title says, there will be spoilers in the second half of this review, but just to get right into it, I thought it was a good third season, and sadly a good final season. Or I don't know, who knows what in the world Disney plans on doing. Like, I know they canceled everything because Disney Plus was coming out, but there still hasn't been any news about them bringing the shows over yet, so technically all the shows are just canceled, so at this point, it does seem like it's definitively just the end, but we'll see what happens. Because Jessica Jones, I think, is fine to continue on. I know, I understand with Iron Fist putting that into something else, and they should totally do Heroes for Hire and just cancel both Luke Cage and Iron Fist and just be like, here, put them together and do Daughters of the Dragon. So they might do that. I don't know. Punisher, I think, should keep going by itself. Daredevil, I think, especially with the third season, that was fantastic, should keep going by itself. So at least, half the show should keep on going, and then the other two should get changed, and then we get a third show out of it, or a newer show out. And I don't know what the deal is with Punisher, since it was outside of their agreements initially, but either way, dealing with Jessica Jones, this is the third and final season, at least on Netflix, for the series, and I think they did a good job. Very surprising. Some stuff that happens in here, especially like just the way everything ends, not at all what I thought they were going to do with the season. It makes sense, and honestly, with the way this season ended and the stuff that they did in the last season, I was like, this kind of makes sense. Like, it almost fits perfectly, but it was interesting watching it because it has like these ups and downs where you're like, it seems like things are getting okay, and then it seems like things aren't so okay, and you just don't really know how far things are going to go. So I like that element. I like that idea of this season and kind of what it does, by the end. But all in all, it's entertaining. Jessica comes back, Trish comes back, Jerry comes back, Malcolm comes back, so we have like our main cast, like all the members end up coming back. Jessica's doing her thing. It's like, here's what's been happening, here's what has happened. People know who Jessica is, even more so now than they did in the previous two seasons, especially with the way the last season ended. Jessica's fairly popular, things are kind of going along. She's got her her PI firm like as a legit service now. Like, she even has like an assistant in this season and stuff like that. So it's like she's legitimately legit and not just like kind of picking up jobs here and there. She like chooses who she ends up helping and stuff like that. So she's really in like hero mode, sort of, and that's kind of the big thing with her character. Is like, I'm not really a hero. I don't even want to be a hero, but people call her a hero. Does she actually want to be a hero? She just says that because that's the Jessica Jones persona, where it's like, I don't want to do all that. I just do my job, that sort of thing. So they go into, some deep dives on her character, as well as everybody, like all the mental issues of like all these everybody's effed up in this show, except like the assistant and like the kid that shows up, that comes in from the last season. They're like the only two people in this whole season that aren't just like effed up in some way, shape, or form, and like one other person that is involved with Jerry. But it's insane. Like, all these people got some issues. Like, just every single character is just like, you've got issues, you got these issues, that happened when you were a kid, you're doing this now because of that, you're doing this now just because you're an a-hole. Just, people are just nuts in this show. Like, it's really crazy. And this one, I think, this season, I think, was the best one to really just show, like, every single person. They dive so far into, like, what they do that's right and what they do that's wrong. I thought it was really entertaining. And even, newer characters, they dive into them, like, what's good and what's bad about them as a person, what's good and bad about being a hero, what's good and bad about saying you're a hero versus not saying you're a hero. A lot of different stuff they tackle, and I think they handled it well. Personally, I think the main villain for this season, I thought was really entertaining, and I love the way it was handled, because it was kind of just like, it was almost an out of nowhere villain. Like, things kind of just stumble along, and then it's like, poof, now you fall onto like the big bad of the season. And I kind of like that. I like the way it was handled, and you find out how things unfold, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't think that was how that was going to play out, and then that it starts to add new layers to specific characters throughout the season. So I thought that was pretty cool the way it was handled. He was definitely a great villain. I thought it was really entertaining and super creepy. Like, he was a great creepy character. So I thought they did a really good job with the villain for this season. I thought the way they dived into all the characters was entertaining. Some of the action sequences were pretty good. I feel like this was, oddly enough, the most like action-packed season, especially with some of the stuff they did due to Trish's character. I think this had like the most action. I'd have to actually go back and watch seasons 1 and 2 again, but I just feel like this had like legit action sequences, throughout the season, which isn't what you really expect for Jessica Jones. But I thought it was done well, and it made sense. Like, there was a lot of moments where I can think like, oh man, I feel like there are just more of those compared to both season 1 and 2. I think it kind of just ramped up. I think the whole series has kind of been that way. Like, it started simpler, especially with, Kilgrave being that specific type of villain. There's not much fighting that guy because he can just say stop, and then there's no action there. Like, he controls people just by saying stuff. So I think the way things started to go along, and then of course Jessica's mom, had superpowers in the last season, so there's action there, and things kind of continue on in this season where someone else has powers and stuff like that with Trish's character. So I like how they do the action with it, and I was totally fine. I don't think it was like too much action where it just felt like it wasn't the show. I think it fit every single time it happened. So I like the way it was handled. I thought it was a decent balance. Like I said, I love the way they kind of deep dive into our main cast of characters and just how they grow as characters, whether that's good or bad. Like they grow, development wise, the characters grow, but that doesn't necessarily mean they become better people or worse people. There's development on both sides of the fence across the board. So I like the way it was handled for sure. It sucks that it's the final season. I don't know what they could have possibly, and that's the funny thing. Like with the way this season actually ended, I wonder if that was always the plan or if it changed based on the fact that I think they were technically, I don't know if they were even filming it yet when they had the whole process of like all the shows are getting canceled and stuff like that. I'm not sure if they were already in the process of filming or if they were already in the process, or they were just in the process of writing. But the way this one ends, I'm like, where would they go from here? Like they changed like a really fundamental thing, which technically I think they could easily keep going because it's like one specific element of the show. But I was like, man, that's a heck of an ending. So it would have been interesting to see where it would go anyway, like specifically for Jessica Jones, like where it just focuses on her, like what would they reference from this season, going with the future of her character. So we'll see what happens, depending on what Disney decides to do with their whole Disney Plus service, if they bring all the shows over, if they stop doing single shows and they only, have combo, Marvel team up type stuff, which I'd be totally fine with. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it ends up playing out. But I really enjoyed this season. I would highly recommend checking it out. If you're watching this, odds are you've already seen it or you're going to at least check it out. So obviously that's why I did the spoiler-free section in this first half. But highly recommend you check it out. So I'm going to get into the spoilers, of course. If you have not seen the show or you haven't finished it, I will be spoiling it all the way up to the very end of the season. So if you have not seen every single moment from, season 3 of Jessica Jones, go check it out or go finish it and then come back to the second half of this review, because getting into spoilers, I do this all the time. If you watch any of my other spoiler reviews, I always start at the end anyway, because it's always like the craziest part, like at least if it's a good ending, or even if it's bad. I think the ending is always the best place to start because it's the most entertaining. Like if it's a great ending, it's fun to talk about. If it's a bad ending, it's really fun to talk about. And this, I would say, was a great ending. It was just messed up though. It was harsh. Like it was kind of hard to watch it, where it was like, man, you have this character in Trish who was Jessica's best friend. And, they touch on that a little bit in season 2 with the flashback episode. And that's where we see that, Trish was actually like, like messed up. Like she was doing drugs and was like trying to blow a dude in the bathroom and stuff. And Jessica was the one who was like, the upright, stand-up citizen and stuff. And she's going to college and stuff like that. And it's just interesting, like the way they've developed these two characters and their relationship, done so incredibly well. In this season, they start off as rivals, and then, it's like Jessica sees Trish and it's like, oh crap, she's got superpowers and stuff now. And she still basically hates her. It's like, you killed my mom. I don't really care. Totally justified. And Trish is either, and it was funny because at first I was like, maybe it's the crazy process of the, the experiment or whatever. But it's like, no, it's just Trish. It's just Trish being Trish. And it was like, we see the note that she was writing to Jessica when Jessica finds it. And it's like, you still blame me, but like you're too stubborn to see that I was right and stuff like that. And it's like they actually have that argument later in the season, and they talk about it. And it was just like, man, she, it seemed like they worked it out. During the scene where they actually have the conversation about it, where it's like, yes, I was, like they have both sides of it. Like, yes, I was wrong, but at the same time, you got to admit, I was also kind of right. Like your mom was crazy. She probably would have killed more people, which is totally justified. So, in a sense, yes, Trish was right, because she probably did stop someone that was just going to end up killing more and more people. And on the other side of that coin, you killed your best friend's mom, so your best friend gets to be mad at you. So it's like both of them, very, very solid arguments. And when they had that argument, they had that conversation, I thought they officially worked it out. They were going through, they're doing the case, it was that back and forth, like, stay out of it. Jessica, after she gets stabbed, she's getting like PTSD throughout the first couple episodes, which I thought was really good for her character. And so, she's out of it. So Trish is, like she takes the thing, the little note out of her hoodie the one time when she passes out in the street. So it's like, they're going back and forth trying to do the same case and figure out, who ended up stabbing Jess, and figure out, if it was the guy that they were actually stealing from, then it turns out to be somebody else. And so it's this back and forth, and then they eventually do they do the Marvel team up. Like you have Hellcat, you got Jessica Jones. And it was just like, this is cool. It seems like they've been able to kind of, work through their processes. Like, they've worked things out. And then it gets to, like, I think it was the last 2 episodes. And it was like, oh, this is not good. Like, Trish just went just super far down, which, once again, 2 sides of the coin. She was handling it fairly well. And then, you got, I can't even remember the guy's name, admittedly. But he ends up killing her mom. And it was like, well, that's effed up. And that just sends her, like, straight down. And it's like, I'm just going to kill him. I'm just going to kill this guy. And she was close to doing it. Jessica stopped her the first time. And then she goes through and it's like, okay, well, let's stop other bad guys. They used the new character who, I forgot his name as well. But he gets his headaches and stuff. So it's like, this guy's bad, that guy's bad. So they go through and it's like, all right, this is how this is going to play out. And then it's just her not being able to handle it once she gets into, like, this crazy rage mode. And the first kill was a total accident because I just assumed she kind of went nuts to begin with when they started to do the flashback. And then it was like she just did a kick so that he wouldn't shoot the other guy. And he hit a pole and he just died. And I was like, I didn't think that's how that was going to play out. Total accident. So then they're screwed. And it's like, okay, well, we'll find another bad guy, bribe them, and make them say that they killed the cop. No big deal. Except Trish went absolutely effing insane, and then she killed that guy too, and then just throws his badge on him like, well, it's done. And it's like, this is bad. Like, this is really, really bad. And it just gets crazier and crazier. And then, of course, Jessica realizes, like, all right, you've killed these 2 people. Of course, so with that happening, they let Jessica out of prison. It's like, all right, you have to be stopped. And she can't even trust her own sister, and it just really sucked. And she had to, like, put it out on TV or on the internet, I guess. Like, hey, the mass vigilante, it's Trish Walker. And it was just like, wow, this really sucks. And then, once again, things are, like, finally, seemingly becoming okay. After all the madness and stuff. And, like, I think technically when she revealed that she was the killer, it was before, or that she was the vigilante, it was before the elevator thing. But things seemed like they were going well there. And it was like, all right, you killed those 2 people. They don't know who you are. Calm down. We'll keep you locked up. Just relax. Like, let's just let this happen. Let this guy go to prison. And then she gets on the elevator and she pops out and she takes down all the cops and she just smashes this dude's head in, like, on the ground. Like, she just crushes his head. Or I guess technically she didn't, because they do show his face. That's what I thought they were implying at first, because they wouldn't show what happened. But it was really just like, oh, she, like, stomped on his face a bunch. And I was like, okay. I mean, considering the things that Jerry's gone through, I was kind of surprised by the look on her face. And I was like, oh, well, it's not like his head is, like, squished. That's what I thought was going to happen, which is why I assumed they weren't going to show it. But then it pans down. It's like, oh, his face was, like, kicked in a bit. It, like, even, like, it was the dude's actual face. It wasn't like they even used, like, a fake face that was crushed in or anything, like, super gross. I was like, his face just bloody a lot, and that's kind of it. But I think it's supposed to be implied. It, obviously, it looks a lot worse than they showed. But I enjoyed it. I was like, holy crap, that's an insane moment. And that's when it was gone. That's when it was just taken a little too far. And Jessica's like, I have to put her away. And, they have the appearance with Luke Cage, which I thought was pretty cool. And they reference the raft. Oh, another thing, I guess technically this is a spoiler, but I think it was the first episode, they actually say the name Captain America. I was like, oh, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, this must be a real thing, because they actually said it. I guess they're done. I guess everything's been canceled, so they're like, F it. The writers were just like, just say the actual name, because clearly they had some stupid rules in there, like the green dude and the guy with the shield. That was like the whole season, and it was all the series. It was always dumb and really annoying. And in this, the kid's like, he said something about Captain America. I forgot the exact line, but that blew my mind. I was like, they actually used a real name. I couldn't believe it. So I just wanted to mention that. But, we have the ending. We have Luke Cage show up, and he talks about his brother and putting him on the raft and stuff like that. So they're making, like, full name references to things within the actual Marvel Universe, which is nice. And, he talks about how he's like, that's my own brother, and I had to put him in the raft, which I felt like technically his story didn't really relate as much to Jessica's story, because it was like, yeah, that was technically your brother, but you didn't even know that. Like, you just found out, and then you guys fought for, like, the second half of the season, and it was boring and stupid. Like, it was a pretty bad second half of the second season. Or was that the second half of the first? No, it was the second season, yeah. So the second half of the second season, kind of dumb. Like, it was just dumb. So it was like, I felt like it wasn't on the same level. Like, sure, you found out it was your brother, and that's a crazy thing to do, and then you send him away. But that attachment was not even remotely close to Jessica literally growing up, with Trish and going through the whole trials and tribulations of helping her not blow dudes in the bathroom and dealing with her mom and stuff like that. So wasn't on the same level, but he gave her that advice, that foreshadowing advice. It was like, you gotta, even the people that you care the most about, if they're too far gone, they have to be put down in some way, shape, or form at least. So sadly, Trish gets put in the raft at the end of the series, and that was nuts. I was like, wow, I did not think that this character who was like, yeah, and they even say it, like she was Jessica's guiding light at one point, especially after they did like the switch, after they grew up and Trish got clean and then Jessica got dirty in a sense. Trish was the one that was like, all right, the roles have reversed and now we're adults. I'm going to take care of you. And then this character just goes on this insanely dark spiral through these 3 seasons. Like, she probably has the most entertaining arc when you look at the series as a whole, because it's just like, wow, she was such a great, lovable character who just seemed like the good, innocent person. And then it's just like, wow, you're a crazy piece of shit person now. And it was just messed up. Like, she, killed Jessica's mom. She went through the process of having, superpowers and like pretty much pushing Jessica away or hating Jessica just because she had powers and being like, yeah, I want these powers, so I'll pretty much do anything to get them. And then she gets them, and it's still that process of being like, I was totally right to kill your mom, stuff like that, where it's like she wasn't even trying to see the other side of, hey, your mom was murdered, which she got a bit of that in this season, unfortunately. But it was just crazy. And once that happened, of course, she wasn't strong enough. I mean, that was kind of I think that was another big thing where they would sprinkle it in there here and there. But it was like, oh, Jessica was able to handle it, and Trish thought she was strong enough, but she really wasn't. And when that moment came where it was that dark thing, it just wasn't a possibility for Trish, and she lost it. Like, she lost it, and she killed that guy. She killed a couple of people because she couldn't even control herself. Specifically, the last guy and the second guy. First guy, total accident. She just kicked him in the back, and it was like, who would have seen that coming? But she just lost it, and then she gets into the raft at the end, and it's like, that's crazy. And Jessica plans on leaving, and then they do the weird thing where Purple Man's voice, Kilgrave, his voice kind of comes in. They do the purple light. I thought that was cool. It was a nice touch because I didn't expect them to do that like at all this season. And it's her kind of thinking like, I can just give up and stuff, but she decides to turn around. It's like, all right, I'm going to be a superhero or something like that. Like, I might watch a video on other people's theories on exactly what that meant, because I don't think that was something where it was like suddenly he creeped into her head and she's going to like turn evil to her or something like that. It was like, I think she just turned around and was like, you know what, I'm not going to do that, because it would be the easy way out to just take off. And it's like, you know what, I'm happy being a superhero, and I got to do it now. Like, I literally just ended it with sending my friend off to some crazy supervillain prison. I guess I can stick around and find happiness in helping other people. So I love the way it ended. Just very shocking. Wasn't expecting that at all. But I love the way it was handled. I like what we got from the new characters, specifically the villain, because he was just creepy. I like the way it led into the fact that, Jessica just happened to get stabbed by mistake because she was with the dude and he followed them back and stuff. And it was just like, he's blackmailing people, but he doesn't actually know what the deal is. And that leads them to like this insane supervillain. I mean, he's not a supervillain, but like a criminal mastermind, I guess is the best way to put it, since he's not really super. And then of course it goes through the whole process of him being like, people with superpowers take the easy way out and stuff like that. He was obviously insane. He was murdering people left and right. But I liked him as a villain for sure. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good 3rd season. I'm hoping that it's not the final season officially. Like, I hope Disney does something with it. I would like to see the show continue, but I would also just love it if they at least kept the character around and they did, Marvel team-up shows here and there and just kind of kept it going in that route. I'd at least be okay with that. At least we'd have the character. I think the character has acted, perfectly well, and I would love to see them continue the story now that she's kind of out on her own and, she doesn't have her best friend / sister there, which technically she didn't in the beginning of this season either. But I would love to see what they do if they keep going with it. But all in all, great final season, if it is the final one. I personally think so, but I would love to know what you guys thought about it, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it, and of course, with everything, I guess, being canceled on Netflix, all the Marvel stuff at least, do you want to see this story continue? Would you want to see, Disney put it on Disney Plus and go to season 4, or would you rather they just keep the character and put her in like a Marvel team-up show? I don't think they're going to do Defenders because apparently everyone just straight up hated the Defenders. So they probably won't be doing that anytime soon if they ever do it again, like specifically the Defenders. But I would love to know if you guys would like to see the story continue. If you think it's good, it's done, and you're fine with it not continuing. But you want to see some of the other shows. I think everyone would say please keep Daredevil, and also Punisher as well. Punisher's pretty sweet. But I'd like to see it keep going. I would like to see Jessica Jones continue into its own season 4, but I'd be fine. Like I said, as long as they keep the characters around, I'll at least be satisfied. But I'd be happy if they went like full on season 4. Like, where do they go now that you have like such a big character taken out of the show because she's in the raft? So I would love to see what they do with that sort of concept for her character, where she accepts being a superhero. Like, what would that change for her demeanor? Just a million other things. I would love to see that personally. But like I said, would love to know what you guys thought about this season. Favorite moments, least favorite moments, what you think they did right, what you think they did wrong. What did you think of course, of Trish by the end? Like, did you just hate her character? Did you hate her character, but you loved how it was written? Because that's how I felt. I was like, man, she's just a shitty person now. But I love the way they wrote it. I thought it was just so well done. So I enjoyed it. But it just sucked that it happened, because I was like, she was, just way up here. I was like, she's such a good person and good character. And then just, straight down, just each season, just worse and worse as a human being. I was like, wow, that sucks. That's really sad. It was just sad and kind of effed up at the end, but it was still entertaining. So the bittersweet sort of thing. Like, it was just a dark ending, but still certainly enjoyable, from my perspective at least. But I'd love to know what you guys thought about it. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.